Hey, what's up? My name is Paul Solt, and this is introducing Swiftly 1.0. This is by Chris McGee from Apple. And they say, today we're delighted to announce the first stable release of Swiftly, a Swift version manager that takes the pain out of installing and managing and updating your Swift toolchain. So if you've used Xcode, you've never had to do anything like this. But if you are trying to do Linux or other cross-platform development or maybe server development, working with a tool chain becomes a little bit of a chore. And I ran into this with the embedded Swift programming that I was playing around with last year. And so this is a new tool to assist with that. So the latest version of Swift is bundled with Xcode for writing apps for Apple platforms. But perhaps you want to install Swift on a different platform like Linux, or use a different version of the tool chain for building services or command line tools. Downloading, extracting, and installing a trusted build of Swift along with the relevant dependencies for your operating system can require quite a few manual and error-prone steps. And I've definitely had situations where I have installed the tool chain and it just doesn't work. It can be super frustrating. So the fact that they're trying to make this a little bit easier is nice. Now, there is another tool that they mentioned later on in here, and let's continue reading. So Swiftly has been around for some years as a community-supported tool for Swift developers using Linux. I didn't know that. I didn't know this existed. With this release, we're officially supporting it as part of the core Swift toolchain, including hosting it as part of the Swift GitHub organization. So this is probably another reason why they shifted away from just being hosted on Apple so that they could do stuff like this. We've also added macOS support to make it easier to install Swiftly separately from Xcode. Cool. So introducing Swiftly. Swiftly is the best tool to install the standalone toolchain, providing commands to install Swift on a new system, updated to the latest stable version, and experiment or test with nightly snapshots or older versions. It also makes it easy to switch effortlessly between multiple installed toolchains. And now this is a really cool feature that, if it worked well, would be really cool. Because it's hard navigating all those tool chains. So you can even add a file to your project repository, so Swiftly will use the same toolchain version for all members of your development team. That's really important if you're doing something shared. Naturally, Swiftly itself is written in Swift and is able to update itself to the latest version. So let's look at a quick tour and see some of the features of what you can do in Swiftly. So to get started, you're going to need to install it. I'll look at that in a second. Swiftly will provide the directions after installation if there's any system packages or shell commands needed for a smooth operation of the new toolchain. The latest Swift toolchain is installed by default, so you can immediately use it to start a new project, for example, Swift package init. And I have another video on Swift package init. This one, there's a lot of cool things. I've been diving deep into packages this week, and something like this is helpful, but it's also making sure that you're on the right toolchain is also critically important. So the Swiftly use command selects the default toolchain for Swift commands, Swift test and Swift build. Is that supposed to be an unhappy face? No, okay. That's kind of weird. That's not an unhappy face. So here we can see Swift use 6.3. And this is where I was super confused on this. I didn't go back to this. I was just trying to do it based on the help. And it was super confusing how to set it. You're setting it without the Swift keyword. I kept trying to use like Swift -6.0.3. And this is the default for Xcode 16.2. Now, Xcode 16.3 just came out and adds some new features that are not going to work with 6.0.3. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when using these different tool chains, which ones are in sync with Xcode and which ones aren't. So at a later point, if there's a new release of Swift, you can install it alongside the existing toolchain with the latest command. I don't know if it's going to keep you updated of like what's the latest, or I think you just manually do this. So there's certain keywords that are super helpful to know, and I think if you get the help command on the install, it will be a little bit more explicit. But just looking at the help commands was a little bit confusing when I first played with this. All right, so pre-release versions of Swift are available through nightly snapshot toolchains. They can be easily listed using Swiftly. So this is the way to list them. So these are nightly snapshots. So when you say main snapshot, um, this is like cutting edge Swift. So you may or may not want this version unless you're doing something like embedded Swift. If you're doing normal Swift development, you're just going to want to stick to latest for a actual release. I'm assuming that's the latest official release. So that should be 6.1, I think. So if we keep scrolling down, so there's certain keywords that are going to be helpful. So this will help you navigate like all of the different versions that you can get with the Swift toolchain. And once you have identified a snapshot toolchain, it can be installed using its name. So you can just grab that name and install it. The confusing thing is that when you list versions, it shows Swift in front of it. And so that's where I got mixed up on how to actually grab whatever it wants to do. And then it says you can temporarily use a specific Swift version using the special plus selector. With this syntax, you don't need to first switch to a different tool chain. Okay. So this is allowing you to run LLDB using a certain snapshot. So that's a debugger in iOS or macOS development. So if you're building, I guess it's any kind of Swift development, so not specific to iOS. So if you're building a Swift PM project in a team setting and want to enforce a common version of Swift toolchain on all contributors, create a Swift-version file in the root of your project with the desired version. I think this will be really important. They don't actually show it, but I think it's just a text file with the literal 6.0.3 inside of it. As Swiftly is updated with new features and bug fixes, you can run Swiftly self-update to check for new releases. All right, so then they talk about how it works. It was done using the async HTTP client, and it's using Swift Open API. And it's a cross-platform project. All right, so that's the announcement. And getting started, this is the installer. So this is how you get started with Swiftly on macOS. Oh, I didn't do it this way. Okay, so there's a package that I can just double click and download. We can hit continue, install, close, move to trash. Okay, so let's see if this works. So I did that install. This is different than what I did before. I used the curl command from the other page. All right, so this is going to tell us a few different things. Let's make this bigger. So Swiftly will be installed in the following locations. It's going to be in users, then my user account, and Swiftly. That's the data configurations files, including toolchains, and then executables are going to be in that bin folder in .swiftly bin. So those are things to keep in mind. These locations can be changed using this and this. I'm going to keep them as is. So then it's going to download and install the latest toolchain. Okay, so this is where we get to see what the latest available Swift toolchain is. There's no way to not say yes to this. If you say no, it doesn't set it up all the way, so nothing happens. So if I say yes, what we're going to see is it's going to fetch some stuff for me. So it's going to update my profile, and then it's going to start installing the latest, which is going to be Swift 6.1.0. So it's downloading and installing that, and we are downloading a 1.4 gigabyte file essentially. So 5% downloaded, so that's going to keep on going. If I open up a new tab here, there's no easy way to go to presentation. So the annoying thing with iTerm, I think we're just going to wait for it. Are we going to wait for it? I don't want to wait for it. So let's see if Swiftly is here. Not here. Maybe it hasn't finished installing. It said it did. So let's open up Swiftly. No. Z profile. I think it put it in Z profile. It's not there yet. Let me pull that back down. Okay, so my current version is going to be 6.0.3, and this should be coming from Xcode. So if I type or it gets installed from Xcode. So if I type which Swift, it's going to show me that it's in the bin directory. Once we have this Swiftly installed, it's going to be in a different location. And this is what you have to keep in mind if you're doing any kind of package development. Keeping up with these different things can be a little bit confusing. So let's wait for this, and then we'll skip ahead. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to finish up, I'm just going to jump on over. So Xcode releases is where we can learn about things. Last time I tried to make this really big, it gets a little bit funky. So Xcode 16.3, we can see this is the release version of Xcode. This just came out on March 31st. So it's like 5 days ago. And it is the Swift 6.1 toolchain. So Xcode releases is really nice because this allows you to see which version of Swift is shipping with Xcode. And if we scroll down, the last public release was 16.2. This came out in December of last year. And this has Swift 6.0.3. So this is what you need to keep in mind if you want to switch tool chains, because this will help you understand which one's actually working. And let's see what it's doing. Installing package in user home directory. There's a lot in Swift. Okay, here we go. So the file. Okay, I should have read this last time. Well, I don't know if I saw this message last time, but the file Swift version has, oh, I didn't know it created a Swift version right here. Interesting. The global default toolchain has been set to the latest. Swift 16.1.0 is successfully installed. So not only did it set the current Swift version for this folder, it also says it did something in my home directory, and then it set the global default as well. So Swift 16.1.0 is installed. So this is what comes with Xcode 16.3. And then to use this on my shell command, do I not have the right number of lines wrapping? Let's fix this. Okay, something like that looks a little bit better. We're going to run this command added by Swiftly. Your shell caches items on your path for better performance. Swiftly has added items to your path that may not get picked up right away. You can run this command to update your shell to get these items. I actually don't know what that is. So what is hash? I've never used that before. Okay, so from my current shell, it's saying I need to run this. So let's try that. And let's see if that makes Swiftly available. Swiftly is available. What was the other command? I don't know what this is. We asked ChatGPT. Nope, that's not going to work. Is this like a Linux thing? Reset. Okay. So let's go back to my shell. I'm using iTerm, and I'm using the control double tap to make this appear. I don't know if that's going to have any effect. It might have an effect for you. I don't think I needed that. So this is the man page or manual page for hash. I think. Did it open? Doesn't. Okay. So Swiftly version. Swiftly version. Let's type it right. Unknown V. Of course, they don't support shortened. So I got to do, okay, this is 1.0. And then let's do, so I'll show you list available. List available. These are all the Swifts that you can install. You can install all of these different, I don't know why you'd want to go back that far. But you could go back to 5.10. You could go to 6.0, and now you can install 6.1. So 6.1 actually has some nice things coming for trailing commas, which is really cool. So that's list available. Now, the confusing part is if you want to use this, you don't copy the full thing. You just copy the version number. So that was not clear. List available. Let's see if there's any help. Okay, so you can specify a certain version. You can do main snapshot. I don't know what this means. Oh, they're just saying the number. Okay, so that's a little bit helpful right there. Then Swiftly, what else can we do? So we can uninstall a toolchain. We can update a toolchain to a newer version. That's actually really handy. And then there's a self-update, and then the install. So if I wanted to install the same version that I'm running in Xcode, since I've got 16.2 installed right now, I'm going to say, oh, now I have to install that as well. If we write Swift version, let's see what version of Swift is visible here. So here we can see that this is Apple Swift version 6.1. And then we could also see which Swift. Cool. Now, when you're going between versions, it's important to know when certain features come out. So Swift 6.1 comes with certain different features, and that's one of the things that you're going to have to keep in mind. So if I did Swift package init, like they're suggesting, one of the things that you're going to notice, Did I do the right one? Swift package help. I really wanted to do a library. So let's see. Is this going to let me change? Okay, so let's just delete everything here. We'll do rm-rf for this directory. Cross our fingers we don't break anything. Can't do that. It's probably going to delete my... I don't see the... We probably should have made another directory. I mean, that might have actually been okay, but we just trashed it. So let's make a directory because I'm gonna need two direct. See where we go with this. Okay, so we're gonna create a directory. I'm now in my tutorials folder, and I want to do that other command. So we're gonna go up and see if we can do it. This might be the same exact thing that we just created. So let's... Does it show it here? Looks pretty similar. All right, so if I did Swift build, that's going to build it. And that's building with the latest toolchain. And then we do Swift test. That's going to go ahead and test it. It's going to run our Swift testing. So one of the things you have to keep in mind is that Swift testing works across platforms versus I think Xcode's XC test is going to be Mac specific. That was one of the things I didn't realize. So I was on a development snapshot toolchain from doing embedded Swift, and I could not run my XC tests on the command line, and it was confusing. I think I've realized why. So there's a couple of ways to do this. You could use VS Code. So if I did code and just opened up this folder, we can take a look and say, yes, we trust this. I don't know. I don't want to do that right now. Don't ask me all these questions. So many questions. So here we can see we've got a git ignore. It's going to add a bunch of things. And then we're going to see package.swift. So this is the file. Let's get rid of that. Just make this bigger. Can I build? How do you build? It's like... I just have my embedded Swift stuff to build. So this is one way that you can work with Swift. I don't really prefer working in VS Code, so that's an option. I know some people really like that editor. I don't really like that editor. So what I'm going to show you is how we can open this in Xcode. So I'm just going to say open, and then we're going to say package.swift, press enter, and that's going to open up Xcode. Now, keep in mind, when you do open this up in Xcode, it's going to, I guess it opened up the other Xcode. I must have switched tool chains. So let me just check which location is installed. Okay, so this is my local install. This is the App Store version. They're both the same, but I like to have control over that when I need to prevent going up a version. And it cannot build without a scheme. And the reason that it cannot build, so this is one of the things you have to keep in mind when you're working with different versions. I need Xcode 16.3 in order to work with this. And for whatever reason, the App Store hasn't automatically updated that. I don't know why. Is it in the list? Is it not available? .3, it says open. Oh, did it open it up in the wrong one? Let's just quit and see which Xcode is actually open, because I thought it just opened up in the one that it should be the right version. But this says 16.2. Well, that's weird. It's definitely not the right version. And so what you're going to notice is if you open up a Swift tools version of a package in Xcode with the wrong version, you won't get a scheme. So you're going to have to fix it by changing the version. I'm just going to delete that and say 6.0. If I save that, you're going to see that the scheme now appears up here, and it's going to select my iPhone. I don't want my iPhone. I just want, oh boy, it's a big list. I just want iPhone 16 Pro. It's typically what I default to for 18.2. So now I can do Command B, and does that work? Okay. Oh, I guess maybe that was a 6.0 thing. If I go to 5.10, we're going to have problems. This actually, it's not, it gets a little bit wonky. So I would close the Xcode project if you're doing something like this. And I would open it up again, because we'll probably fail. No? Okay, maybe I was just using a super old version. I could have sworn something. Oh, yeah. No, this one doesn't look right to me. Like this trailing comma, I've had issues with. I don't know what's going on. It's building. Okay, it seems to have worked. You might have to play with this. So I should have 6.0, so I can use that one. And anytime you change the tools version, I would kind of recommend you close it, because I've had so many issues trying to do packages lately where the tool chain is not in sync with what version I want. And in this case, I'm probably going to want to use Swiftly to install um, 6.0. So let's see if that works. So here we can see it's going to grab the latest, and that's going to be the 6.0.3. It's going to download another 1.3 gigabytes. Let's make sure I have enough space. I only have 58 gigabytes available. So I'm going to have to clean up some space. But that's using the Swiftly thing. Okay? So Swiftly is all about making it easier to work with these different development toolchains, especially if you're doing something with like embedded Swift. You're going to need I thought there was a link here. Latest release. So on latest release, so this is, okay, that's that one command I had run previously. And this is the package installer. This is what we did today, which I hadn't done before. And those are the instructions that we opened up with it. And then there's development snapshots. So main is going to be like top of tree. From what I understand, release 6.1 is a tagged release. So that's been through all the unit testing and stuff. And if you want to do anything with, I think, embedded Swift, it's going to have to be, I think, in main toolchain. So that's a different one to install. And so Swiftly is all about just making it easier to manage these and update them and all that stuff. Now, I was talking to my students, and they had mentioned that this was going to be a step towards other IDEs taking over, which I don't agree with at all. So this article popped up. Swiftly by Swift team unveiled a major step towards a community-driven IDE rivaling Xcode. We already have that. It's called Visual Studio Code, and it already works with the LSP. It allows you to get your syntax help as you're typing. I don't agree with this at all. So that's my take on it. But this developer has written a couple articles saying that Xcode 16 development experience is still poop, just a little bit better. Xcode is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, code editors in my opinion. I like it better than Visual Studio. I like it better than Visual Studio Code. I like it better than Eclipse and Android Studio. Android Studio is trash, in my opinion. So Xcode is kind of the gold standard. Yes, it has bugs. Yes, sometimes there's issues, but just report them. So go to Feedback Assistant, sign in, and report the bugs that you run into, and Apple will eventually fix some of them. And the more people that report the bugs, the more likely those bugs are going to get fixed. So Swiftly is not a step towards a new IDE. Swiftly is all about cross-platform development across Linux, Windows, Mac, and other platforms, and making it easy to get Swift toolchains installed so that developers can quickly test out new features and stuff like that. So it's not at all about IDEs. It's all about making it easy to manage the complexity of installing a toolchain and having it configured. So now if we do Swiftly and we look at use, does that just always default to the latest, or is that just telling me what it is? Swiftly list. Okay. And so here it's going to list those versions right here. And so if I want to switch to this one, I type Swiftly use 6.0.3 pwd. Oh, it put it at top. Wait a second. Okay, so I'm in my repository here. I'm in a subfolder, and that's why I was confused why I didn't see it. But it put a folder two directories up. Right there. So there's no new line. It's just the version. Is there a local versus global option? Because it's going to be annoying if it keeps changing that. Because like I might not want all of these to be on the same version, because this is sample code. But this is for terminal use. So for most people, it won't matter because it'll be in Xcode. But anytime I'm doing like package type stuff, like that's where this becomes problematic. So let's do Swift build. I don't know why it's taking so long. Swift build. Swift package clean. Okay, maybe it's because we just finished switching versions, and then we can do Swift test, and it's going to run our unit test, which isn't really doing anything. And here you can see which version it's using, which is helpful. And so if I do this, okay, so that tells me where that lock is. And if I say 6.1, it's changing that file. 6.0 local. Um, okay. It's got its own opinions about certain things, so we should be able to clean, build, test, and let me just see what's in here. So there's no testing. So if we wanted to actually have a test condition, we could just say expect condition. We could say 1 is equal to 2. We could go ahead, run our unit test, and fail. So we're expecting a failure here. And if I try this again, that will go through. And we'll get a failure. Interesting. It is, I've never seen it do that. Write your tests right here to check conditions is right here. So if we run this in Xcode, I've never seen this output before. That's why I'm a little confused. So it will show a snippet of a comment above it. Does it show anything? It only does that if you have a comment. So if I comment this line out, and we run it again, we see a little bit of something. So if, and let's see if we put that at the end of the line. It doesn't put it down. Interesting. So if you want to have a little bit of context with your unit tests on your expectation, you could put a comment. I don't really recommend this because it just adds visual noise. But Xcode will do this weird. Let me show you the line above this comment. Okay, so that is a little bit about working with the Swiftly toolchain. It is all about just making it easier to switch versions. The downside is when you're doing this, if we now do this, you're going to see that it's no longer going to that bin directory. It's going to be going to Swiftly bin. And to get away from this, if you need to go back to whatever Xcode has, that's where it gets a little bit finicky. So you just need to make sure that you're going to use the one that you want to be using. If you don't want to be using, I thought we had switched our tool chain. So swiftly use. Did I switch it back? Okay, so if you aren't specific and you say 6, it will do the latest. If you are a little bit more specific, it looks like it grabs the latest of that version. So if I want to do swiftly use 6.0, now it has switched back to 6.3. So that's a little bit about working with Swiftly. Hopefully this was helpful. If so, hit the like button and comment down below if you have any questions about doing Swift development on the command line. In the next video, or I'm going to actually work on some of this code. I want to get into Objective-C and Swift libraries in Swift packages. And this is something I've been diving deep into, trying to understand. And I want to talk about it so that I remember how this all works, because this has been super confusing for me. mainly because I've been working with some older code bases and trying to transition them from CocoaPods to SPM and trying to understand the implications of that so that I have like a proof of concept. So that's kind of what I'm playing around with. All right. So that is Swiftly. This will make you maybe more productive. Just make sure you know what version of Swift you're on. Well, actually, I do want to go into one last thing. So let's look at the Z profile. Okay, so right here, you're going to see that this gets added. If we comment this out and I go back to my shell and we do another ZSH, let's see which Swift. It's still Swiftly. And so then the hash -r, and then we do which Swift? Still Swiftly. Do I need to do a new terminal? Okay. There's something else that's squashing. So I don't know what this script is doing. We should probably look at that script. Okay. It's modified my path. That's why uninstalling was not intuitive to me. Okay, so if you want to stop using this, you need a new shell because it's injected all of this into your path. So I don't love that. So this is a poor man's way of disabling Swiftly if you need to. I just found it frustrating because I wanted to get back to whatever was installed by Xcode. And that's not clear. I was going to open up a ticket. Okay, one last thing. We're going to go to here. So this is the actual GitHub page, and there was an issue. I was just trying to understand how this works with Xcode. Someone else had commented here, Greg Cotton, that there needs to be able to go between Xcode and open source tool chains, which maybe, I think for me, I just want to disable it. So I just felt like you should be able to disable it because it's not intuitive how I get back to my Xcode toolchain if I'm like sort of flip-flopping between different tasks. And I know like Homebrew has some kind of link unlink feature, so something like that maybe. I don't know. Comment here if you have any ideas on that. I'll have the links down below. Thanks for watching. I know this was a long video, but that's what happens when you're doing development tool stuff. I will see you in the next video on Swift packages.